change at any time. And we're now joined by Jason Scheer, Wildcat Authority in the state of Arizona. Jason, thanks for your time. Do you still feel like that's where we are right now?
Yeah, definitely. I believe that there were some sort of discussions today, or I'm confident there were some sort of discussions today. What they involve, it's been hard to pin down. It could be a framework. It could be very preliminary. But I do know that there has been very legitimate discussions with Arizona and the other three schools and the Big 12.
Would you say that the most likely scenario is the Pac-12 dissolving and the other conferences rating it, or some sort of merger?
It feels like, I think there's two things at play, but right now it feels like the Big 12 kind of rating it. A lot of it depends on Oregon and Washington. Are they going to go to the Big 10? How long do the schools want to wait for them? I don't think the Big 12 right now is open to a complete merger with the Pac-12. I don't think that's on the table unless the media rights prove that it's more valuable to everyone. But right now, if I had to guess, again, it's fluid. I would say the Big 12 kind of taking those four schools and the Pac-12 pretty much dissolving would seem to be the most likely situation that we're looking at.
Jason, people who paid close attention knew, obviously that these TV deals were coming up, and obviously there was the OU Texas move last year, and the Pac-12 has had some issues, but what level of gobsmacked were you last week when this news first dropped about USC and UCLA to the Big Ten?
Yeah, I guess I shouldn't be all that surprised, but I was pretty surprised. I think everyone was kind of blindsided by it. The thought process would be, maybe that the Pac-12 would have to change their revenue scheme, get rid of the revenue sharing and give UCLA and USC a little bit more money and the money that they probably deserve. But I don't think anyone knew this was coming, and then it moved so quickly. The USC and UCLA didn't really give the Pac-12 an opportunity to come to the table with some sort of answer to keep the schools, and so it was pretty surprising for all those involved about what happened and kind of how it played out.
Jason, back 11 months ago, Texas OU and the SEC, of course, even a week after Big 12 Media Days, and we were in Arlington and everything seemed to be happy, joy. What has been the fan reaction, in your opinion, or what you have seen or learned or heard along the way the last 3 or 4 days?
Yeah, it's kind of mixed. The initial reaction was one of sadness because out here in the West, the Pac-12 is the conference. People grow up watching it. Your team's in the Pac-12, all that, and so the reality setting in that the Pac-12. At the very least, it's not going to exist like we all knew it, and it may not exist at all. And so I think people were kind of sad and taken aback by that, belief that the Pac-12 may not exist, and then that's kind of shifted to, okay, what's next for my school? How do I make sure that my school is in the best position? What is my school doing to make sure that their future is secure? Because right now in the Pac-12, it's kind of every man for himself. And each school now, you can go to message boards, communities, and all that. They're saying, okay, is my school going to go to the Big 10? Are we going to go to the Big 12, ACC, et cetera? It's moved on to the how do we secure our future viewpoint as opposed to, okay, this was sad. I think everyone's kind of moved past the sadness phase, at least for now.
So, Jason, how do you think Arizona State fans will feel about playing those teams in the Big 12?
I think there's kind of a feeling of excitement, and the main reason why is the access. If you were watching Pac-12 rooting for Pac-12 teams, as an Arizona fan, for instance, you were watching your team play at 8:30 at night on the Pac-12 network, and there's very little access there and very little excitement. And Arizona now, the idea that they could be playing a game at 11 a.m. on Saturday on a major network, a football game, is awesome. And Arizona or Tucson, even though football brings in the money, it's a basketball town. And all of a sudden, if they join the Big 12, you have Baylor, Kansas, and so you all of a sudden you're in the best basketball conference in the nation, which is awesome for Arizona fans. So I think that Arizona fans, there's a little trepidation, but I think it's kind of getting there. The Big 12 is kind of exciting for both sports.
Jason, I've seen you explain this already on Twitter, but for those who stay off of that app, and rightfully so a lot of the time, but you've seen the reports about certain schools coming out and pledging, we're with the Pac-12. We're going to be here through these negotiations and whatnot. I know they kind of have to say that, but can you explain for the folks out there why some might be doing that and why it might not be that big of a deal?
Well, because you're a member of your conference until you're not. And so if you can't admit that you're looking elsewhere, and the Pac-12 this morning says that they're opening up media rights, well, the only way they're going to get anything close to the deal they want is if they're basically pretending or displaying that the schools are all staying. And you need, kind of a statement of unity. Like, I wouldn't be surprised if Arizona and Utah come out with a similar statement soon, because there's no way you're getting any kind of TV deal if there's rumors that 6 of your teams are going to leave the conference. So you have to be able to strengthen and present the strongest media rights deal. And then again, like, you can't admit to it. And, you're a member of the conference until you're not. Arizona, in an hour could release a statement, and then tomorrow say, you know what, the Big 12 came with an offer that was too good to pass up, and we're a member of the Big 12. It's all just so fluid. But if you admit that you're looking around, you've lost all leverage whatsoever as a conference. And really, even if you're looking at the Big 12, if you come out with a statement that says you're looking around, you still lost leverage with the Big 12. You need to kind of hold pat and play it out, and that's why these schools are releasing these statements.
Well, yeah, they have this whatever negotiating window that's been reported, Jason, as well. And how much longer can anybody wait? You have to wait for what you think is the right decision. How much longer can the Pac-12 really wait? How much longer can the Big 12 wait, if at all, because of what might be available? And even the ACC, of course, sits there with another 10, 15 years on their grant of rights.
Yeah, I mean, I think this thing's going to move really fast. I do. Like, I don't think that they vote on the media rights thing opening up unless the Pac-12 or George, the commissioner, has an idea of where this is headed. I think he has an idea in mind that he believes can save the conference, whether that's a merger or adding teams, whatever it may be, because you have to be able to present something to the network. Fox probably isn't going to go to the table because of the Big Ten, and then ESPN is kind of bidding against itself. So you're really presenting this to ESPN and Fox, it's an exclusive 30-day window, but you better have something to present. And there's no way he's presenting a 10-team conference without the LA schools. So he's got to have an idea of where he's headed. And if you're the Big 12, you probably have a feeling for that. Maybe you're a little worried that he tries to raid, some Pac-12 tries to raid the Big 12 a little bit and go that route. And so you have to be aggressive if you're the Big 12. You can't just sit around and wait. And I think you need to be aggressive if you're all these conferences, ACC included. There's rumors that are kind of hanging around. They're not as strong as some sort of Pac-12 ACC merger. And if you're the ACC and that's something that appeals to you, you need to get that done as quickly as possible, because the time of waiting is over. You just can't do it anymore with the way that these college football teams are now looking out for themselves, and rightfully so. But you can't wait around and kind of see what happens. You need to go out and figure out your conference.
Jason, what are, just not so much specific numbers, but Arizona State's a large school. They're attached to, obviously it's Tempe, but attached to Phoenix, and Tucson, of course, a little bit away, but near Phoenix. How much draw do either one of them have when it comes to media coverage? I know it's big with Arizona State and Arizona basketball, Arizona football or whatever. How much draw do they have in that market, that TV market?
It's the Phoenix market itself is obviously big. ASU doesn't dominate the Phoenix market. There's professional teams there, obviously, with the Suns and the Diamondbacks. But it's a pretty decent market. I mean, it's not going to be, like, let's say the Big 12 asset. It's not going to be a ton of revenue at all, but it'll be the idea that you can maybe get into new markets. And I think that's the most appealing thing. It's not necessarily, ASU and Arizona are going to bring us a ton of money as schools and brands. It's more of, okay, maybe we could get the Big 12 into the Phoenix market. And that's something that can maybe expand the conference. But the two schools itself, I hate to say it, but there's probably not a lot of individual value with their sports there.
Would there be a bump? They're already in the Pac-12. How do you think recruiting would be affected by a conference move?
I think it may be a little more difficult for football to recruit in California. I know that their pitch is already going to be, look, you're playing half your games in California if you go to the LA schools, which is great, but your away games, you're going all the way across the country, whereas in Arizona, you're much closer and you'd be able to travel to more games. I think Arizona, they're starting to dip into Texas a little bit with recruiting. I would assume if they go to the Big 12, it becomes a lot more than that, and it becomes a legitimate focus of their recruiting. So I think it could hurt a little bit with California, but it should help with Texas. It probably has a little bit of an impact, but In my discussions with both basketball staff and football staff, they honestly don't seem overly concerned about it.
Jason, thank you, man. Appreciate your time. Jason Scheer for the Wildcat Authority, who had that tweet that we put up at the start of the show and also before his segment as well. And I